Well, hello, my friends. It's me, Stu, here for you. And today we're going to be talking about 3 steps to growing your audience. Now, bottom line is this I don't know where you are in your journey of growing your business. Maybe you're in the very beginning stages, right? And perhaps you don't have an audience yet at all, and you're starting brand spanking new. That's okay. Perhaps you are a little bit further along. You know who your audience is. You've begun building your audience a little bit, or perhaps you're much further down the line and you have an established audience, maybe of thousands of people, tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people. Bottom line is this: no matter where you are on your journey, you and I have to continuously look to grow our audience, because when we have any type of offer, like our memberships as an example, the more people we have in our audience, the more potential people we then have the opportunity to make an offer to. So it is 100% a fundamental activity of growing a business is growing the people that we are wanting to serve and present offers to. So it's an activity that, it doesn't matter where you are in your journey. This is something that you've got to be hyper focused on, is growing your audience and building your email list. But I often get asked the question about how do you do this from scratch? And how do you begin building that audience? And part of the challenge is that today there are seems like 1,000,001 different things that you can do to grow your audience, right? And that can create confusion, and it can create overwhelm, and it can lead to us not consistently doing the right activities that are going to lead to the right results. And I don't know if you've ever found yourself in this position, but I certainly have. So I'm going to walk you through 3 steps that you can utilize to begin growing your audience. It was the same 3 steps that I used, or we used in our business way back in the day when we began. And there are a few things that I might tweak in today's day and age, and I'll walk you through that. But the fundamentals of them stay exactly the same. So you ready to jump in? Hello, May from Oslo. Great to see you. Thanks for jumping on. Okay, so step number one is you need to pick one platform. You need to pick one platform. So I don't know what that might be for you. It largely depends on where your audience likes to hang out. Perhaps they like hanging out on Facebook. Perhaps they're more of a YouTube audience. Perhaps they're an Instagram audience. Perhaps they're a TikTok audience. I have no idea, right? You will know because where your audience hangs out is, you need to get familiar with where they hang out, and we need to pick one platform. Now, there may be overlap. Like there may be some people, in your audience that are on Facebook, some that are on Instagram, some that are on YouTube. I get that. But in the beginning, when there are so many options, it can become paralyzing thinking that you've got to create content to be able to serve people on all these different platforms. That leads to overwhelm, and that leads to subpar results. So at the end of the day, what I want to encourage you to do for step number 1 is to pick one platform. And I'll give you an example. So when we began our business of today, this was back in 2015. Okay. So I was in a transition period. I had just sold my previous software company, and so with that, I sold my, obviously my email list and my audience and all that kind of stuff. So I was starting from complete scratch. And at that time, again, there were plenty of options of different things that we could do, but we focused on one particular platform. Now, for us, that was Facebook. Now, the reason that Facebook was the platform that we focused on was, number 1, our audience was there. And number 2, it also not only was a channel for which we could grow our audience organically, right? But it was also a channel where we could advertise as well. So number 1, and most importantly, our audience was there on Facebook. And number 2, we could grow it both organically and through paid. So we picked Facebook. And so I don't know what platform would it be for you? Like if you had to pick one platform, what platform would you focus on for your audience? Let me know in the comments. By the way, it's so great to see some of you. Some of you I can't see because I just see something like this. That's all I see. So whoever you are, hello to you. Somebody from Montreal, great to see my fellow Canucks. Thank you for jumping on. This is awesome. Okay, so Angelica said Instagram, great. Maricela said Insta for sure. Awesome. Okay, so there's so once you're clear on the platform, that's step number one is picking the platform. I see. Okay, so some of you are Instagram, some of you are YouTube. Thank you for that. Awesome. Sarah said here, Facebook and Instagram, they work together. Yep, they do, but I do want you to focus in on one. Okay, so first step, number one is pick a platform. Okay, so once you're clear on the platform, step number two is then we need to begin creating content for that platform. Okay, so step one is pick the platform. Step two is to create content for that platform. Now, again, people can get twisted up about this. I'm going to give you a very simple little strategy, simple little hack that we used in our business. So when we started and we picked Facebook as our platform, my business partner and my brother-in-law, Andrew, he said to me, Stu, I want you to go live every single day. And I was like, what? I'm like, dude, what am I going to talk about? Like, I don't know what I'd be talking about every single day. And he kind of chuckled to himself. He's like, listen, Stu, I've known you for years. Like, you have no problem talking. I said, dude, no. I said, seriously, like, what am I going to be talking about every single day? And he said, okay. He said, I don't know what you want to teach, but what I do want you to do is I want you to go live every single day and teach something. So I was like, okay. So I just asked myself a different question. And this is a question that I want you to write down, by the way. I want you to ask yourself the question, how? How could I blank? In this case, how could I go live every single day? How could I come up with content every single day? Like, when you turn your brain on by asking the question, how, you'll start to see all kinds of ideas start flowing to you. So I asked myself, okay, how could I create content every single day? And ultimately what it led me to was a really powerful and simple strategy that I want to share with you. So what I started doing was I started collecting questions. And in that, I then had the basis to be able to create content every single day. Because as long as I had a jumping off point of a question that somebody was asking, my live could simply be me responding to or answering that question. So what I started doing initially was I started going through like Facebook groups. I started looking at like in comments of like YouTube videos or in blog comments. And I started just looking for questions that people were asking for the market that I was looking to serve, right? So I was looking for things of like, where were they getting stuck? Like, where were they getting held up? What questions were they asking? Like all these kinds of things. And I began making a list, right? So I think in the beginning I had about like 25, 30 different questions. So ultimately that was enough content for me to be able to begin delivering a Facebook Live every single day for that first month. Okay. So I started, creating content, and essentially the lives that I would do would be centered around that question. And it might say something like, recently, I just saw somebody ask the question of blank, and I would just read the question. And then I would respond to that question during my Facebook Live, just like what we're doing here right now. And that formed the basis of me being able to create a whole bunch of content, okay? So number one is that you got to pick a platform. And number two is then you need to start creating content for that platform. Now, alongside that, number three is you need to do it consistently. And so I'm going to give you another little add-on tip to the question. So during every live, what I would ultimately do at the end of it is I would say, and if you have questions yourself, I want you to go to www, and I would send people to a particular list builder that we had. So for example, like today, if I were doing it today, I would say, and if you have questions, I want you to go to themembershipguide.com. Because it is a guide where we've compiled the top questions of people people ask, and I answered them. And we provide lots of examples and resources, all of which help support you in getting your membership site off the ground. So in this case, this is what I would lead people to today. But bottom line is, like, you need a place, a website, a list builder to send people to, right? You with me so far? Okay, so then at the end of every live that I would do is I would direct people to go and sign up to get that free resource. Now, here's the little hack. In the first email that people would get after signing up for that resource, I would have a little PS statement. And the PS statement would say, by the way, or PS, what's your most pressing question about, and in my case, starting a new membership site? Hit reply and let me know. So in the beginning, I didn't have, like, tens of thousands of people. I didn't even have thousands of people, right? I didn't even have hundreds of people signing up every day. Like, it was like a trickle because I was just starting. But inevitably, because I had put that in the PS statement, every single day I started to have people who would hit reply to that email and would ask me a question. Now, guess what that was doing? That was giving me consistent content that I could then therefore create. So I was never, ever, ever at a shortage of ideas for content, because number one, I was focusing in on questions that people were asking. And number two, I was encouraging people to send me their questions day in and day out. And so every single day I was getting new questions that were coming to me, which ultimately then I used to create additional content. Pretty simple and straightforward, right? So number one, you got to pick a platform. Number two, you got to start creating content. And I encourage you to start it around, if you're stuck with ideas for content, just start answering questions that your market has. And then number three, you've got to do it consistently. And so the way to stay consistent with this strategy is by having a consistent, steady stream of new questions that people are asking. And so for me, I just added a simple PS statement in that first email that people get after they signed up to my email list, and it just asked the question, PS, what is your most pressing question about blank? And then people would hit reply, and now I've got a steady stream of those questions. So number one, pick a platform. Number two, start creating content around people's questions. Number three, get consistent with that content. Now, I said this was the 3-step process, and that was the 3 steps that I followed. And by the way, in doing this, it was, in the beginning, it was a little bit slower, right? Like, because I didn't have an audience, but slowly but surely what began to happen were 2 things. Number one, I began growing that audience. It grew from a handful of people to hundreds of people to, I remember when we crossed like thousands of people that had, were following us on our Facebook page, and then tens of thousands and eventually hundreds of thousands. So it all starts in the beginning, right? And we've got to do something. We've got to follow a strategy consistently in the beginning in order to be able to begin building that momentum. And I didn't, during this time, by the way, venture off and begin building my platform or begin building my audience on other platforms. Back then, I did not have Instagram. I didn't do YouTube. I didn't have a podcast. I didn't do any of those. I stayed consistent with one platform. And I, in fact, did that for about 2.5 years. Then, at that point, I began branching out and began publishing content on other platforms, but not until I had established myself on one consistent platform. So the key is getting clear on what that platform is first, then creating content for that platform, and then getting consistent with it. Now, I see, different people have different platforms. Like Tamara has says her audience is primarily on LinkedIn, which is amazing. I see Facebook, YouTube, says Susan, and somebody else just said Instagram and Facebook because they overlap. Like, whatever the platform is, just pick one, create content, be consistent. The extra bonus tip that I would add for you here is that, especially in the beginning when you're building your audience, one of the most valuable things that you can do after you create that content is to engage with people who leave comments or who engage with you. So bottom line, like, engage with people who engage with you. And so because when you do that, they feel seen, they feel heard, and when you're answering their questions, they feel understood, right? And so my encouragement to you is to not only pick a platform, create content, be consistent, but to engage with people in the beginning, because it creates momentum, right? And again, I'm not like a data scientist. I don't know all the whiz bang doohickeys behind the algorithms for Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff. But what I do know is that if people engage with you and your content, they have more of an invested interest in you and who you are and joining your email list. And I also know that the more people engage with your content, the more these platforms show your content to more people. So like, it's, again, there are people that are far smarter than me that have all these crazy whiz bang, formulas and all that. At the end of the day, like, I'm just looking to create content consistently, serve that audience, and then engage with people. And in doing that, it creates that momentum that we are all seeking when it comes to growing our audience. So bottom line, to recap again, number one, pick one platform. And the reason I'm suggesting that is because when we try to be on all the platforms, it can get overwhelming. And not only that, but we can lose sight of what is most important, which is being consistent. And I see some, questions in the comments like that are asking, well, yeah, but you can easily publish to multiple platforms nowadays. That's true. But what I want to encourage you to do is, again, don't dilute your efforts, because it's not just about creating and publishing the content. It's also about engaging. So if you're publishing on Facebook and it's going to Instagram as well, or it's going to YouTube as well, as an example, especially in the beginning, now you're having to manage multiple platforms. Now, you may be able to do that well, but in the beginning, for me, I couldn't. I had to stay focused. And in staying focused, I was able to build more momentum on a singular platform than I would have if I had been spread too thin trying to manage my efforts across multiple platforms. So this is why I am a massive fan of simplicity. I always make things more simple than they need to be, because simplicity creates momentum. So this is why, number one, pick one platform. Number two, create content for that platform. And I start with just answering questions. It's the most simple thing that anybody can do. And in the beginning, I didn't have questions that were being sent to me. I had to go find them. I looked in Facebook groups. I looked in comments of YouTube videos. I looked in comments of blog posts. I was just scouring for questions. I created a list of about 30 questions, and then I just started going live, answering one question a day. And I just would go live and I would say, so today we're going to focus on blank, and whatever the question was centered around, and then I'd respond to that accordingly. So it's creating all this content consistently. And then step three is to do it consistently. So the way that you do it beyond that first initial brainstorm is when people sign up for your email list, just make the first email include a PS statement that says, what is your most pressing question about blank? Hit reply and let me know. And from that point forward, you're going to have consistent questions coming to you from people who are signing up to your email list and asking questions. And that just gives you the basis for all of your future content, allowing you to be more consistent. And then the final step number 4, and this is the bonus step, is to engage with your audience. So this is why, again, I recommend one platform, because it's a lot harder to be consistent with your not only content but your engagement across multiple platforms. And if you're producing content but not engaging, it kind of shows that you don't care. And so if you don't care, then why should your audience care, right? So like, for example, all of you who are showing up here today, like, I'm super grateful for that, and I appreciate you. And I see Susan said, this is so true, simplicity. Yes. Christina said, keep it simple, Stu. Right. And Jackie said, complexity is the enemy of execution, from Tony Robbins. Great quote. Absolutely. So keep it simple. And remember, these are fundamental principles, right? Like I said, there are always going to be new platforms, new strategies, new tactics, new things that are coming up all over the place. That can create overwhelm. And my encouragement to you is just boil it down to the fundamentals. The fundamentals are this. Always start with your audience. What are they challenged with? What is keeping them up at night? Where are they getting stuck? What questions do they have about moving from where they are to where they want to be? Always start with your audience. And the way to serve them is to look for questions that they are asking and be that person that is able to serve them and to answer those questions, and do that in a consistent way. And if you continue to show up and if you continue to serve your audience and continue to provide value in the form of answering questions that are coming up, what's going to happen is you're inherently going to establish your authority in that market. And it begins to build momentum because you become known for something specific. You become known as the go-to person on that subject matter. And that's exactly what happened in my case. Not only did I start from scratch, like zero audience, just starting with my friends and family that were following me on Facebook, but because I was consistent with creating content and answering questions on that topic, I established myself as the go-to authority on all things membership sites. Yes, I had decades of experience helping with people with membership sites before this with my previous software company, but the rest of the world didn't know that, right? Like, outside of the people that I had a chance to serve, the rest of the world didn't know. So going live consistently gave me the chance to establish that authority, gave people a chance to see that, hey, this guy actually knows what he's talking about. This guy has got experience in this area. And people signed up for my email list. I was able to continue to serve them that way long before I made any type of offer. So I'm sharing this with you because, again, we can get sidetracked and pulled in a million and one different directions. Just keep it simple. Pick a platform, create content for that platform, do it consistently, and the bonus tip, engage with those who engage with you. Hopefully that has helped, my friends. And I just encourage you. So Stephanie just said here, do you advise to do the lives on Facebook page or group? Great question, Stephanie. In the beginning, I was doing it on my Facebook page because I didn't have a group at that point. I think there's another layer to having a group because it takes management, right? So in the beginning, I didn't have a group. I just was going consistently to my page. Today, I go live to both my group and my page simultaneously. But in the beginning, it was just my page. And Maricela kind of followed up with that. She said, I would do live in a page and then post it to your group. Yeah, so I think there's multiple ways to do it. But again, just remember, like, the more places that you're sharing this content, the more places you've then got to manage. So just minimize as much as possible where your energy is going. You want to focus that energy. And the best way to do that, obviously, is with one particular place. So, quick thing for you. As I mentioned, I have been answering questions about starting successful membership sites for years, and I've answered thousands and thousands of questions. And what our team has done is compiled the top 10 questions that we get asked about starting a successful membership, and we've pulled them all together into a handy dandy guide, which you can get at themembershipguide.com. Now, not only do I answer those top questions, but we provide a ton of examples so you can visually see and hear about others who had similar challenges and how they overcome them. And also, we provide resources all throughout the guide that make it faster, better, and easier for you to be able to create your own membership. So the guide is 100% free. You can just get it by going to themembershipguide.com, and you'll be able to get that and use that accordingly. So, my friends, hopefully today has been a great use of your time. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll talk to you soon. You're awesome. Bye-bye.